Everything you have been taught about power is a lie. You were told to be good, to play fair, to wait your turn, and that hard work and moral integrity would inevitably be rewarded. This is the single most debilitating myth ever sold to the masses. It is a comforting lullaby sung to you by the very people who would never, under any circumstances, follow that advice themselves. The truth is, power is not given. It is not earned through merit alone, and it is certainly not bestowed upon the deserving. Power is taken. It is seized by those who understand the brutal, unchangeable mechanics of human nature. The titans of industry who built empires from nothing did not do so by being the nicest person in the room. The political dynasties that have shaped the course of history for centuries did not achieve their dominance through polite debate and fair play. The geniuses who disrupted entire societies with their vision did so with a single-minded focus that often left a trail of broken rules and betrayed expectations. They all understood a fundamental, uncomfortable truth. In the arena of high stakes, conventional morality is a liability. It is a set of rules designed to keep the sheep in the pen, while the wolves operate on a completely different plane of existence. The world is not a classroom where you get a gold star for good behavior. It is a chessboard, and if you do not understand the rules of the game as it is truly played, you are not a player. You are a piece, and the purpose of a piece is to be sacrificed for the king. For centuries, the true nature of this game was a closely guarded secret, a body of knowledge whispered only in the halls of power, in the war rooms of generals, and in the private studies of emperors. To speak of it openly was to risk exile, condemnation, or even death. But one man dared to write it all down. He was not a king, a pope, or a conqueror. He was a diplomat, a political observer in 15th century Florence named Niccolò Machiavelli. He saw the rise and fall of princes, the betrayals, the conspiracies, and the cold, hard calculus that separated the rulers from the ruined. He wrote a book, a dangerous manual intended for a prince, detailing not how the world should be, but how it is. This book, The Prince, was so brutally honest, so stripped of moral illusion, that it was condemned as the work of the devil. The name Machiavelli became synonymous with evil, with cunning and manipulation. But they did not condemn him because he was wrong. They condemned him because he was right. He didn't invent the dark arts of politics. He simply exposed them. He held up a mirror to power, and the powerful were terrified that the public would finally see their true reflection. This knowledge was deemed too dangerous for the common person, not because it would corrupt them, but because it would empower them. It would level the playing field. Today, you are going to be given access to that forbidden knowledge. This is not a history lesson. This is a practical guide to the acquisition and maintenance of power in the modern world. By the time this video ends, you will have gained the ability to see the hidden architecture of influence that governs your life, from your career to your social circles. You will learn to recognize and preempt the strategic moves of your rivals. You will understand how to forge a reputation that acts as both a weapon and a shield. You will master the delicate and critical balance between being feared and being loved, ensuring that respect, not resentment, is the foundation of your authority. This is not about becoming a tyrant. It is about refusing to be a victim. It is about understanding the reality of the world so that you can navigate it effectively, achieve your ambitions, and protect what you have built. The principles are timeless because human nature is constant. The ambitious will always seek to rise. Rivals will always seek to undermine you, and the masses will always be swayed by appearances. To pretend otherwise is to choose ignorance, and in the game of power, ignorance is a death sentence. The knowledge I am about to share is the key to unlocking a level of strategic thinking that few possess. It is the operating system of the elite, the silent language of leaders. This is the modern Machiavellian's blueprint for absolute power. We begin by dissecting the very foundation of Machiavelli's realism. He argued that a leader who wishes to succeed must concern himself with what is, not with what ought to be. This is the first and most difficult hurdle for most people. We are conditioned to think in terms of ideals. We want to believe in the inherent goodness of people, in the ultimate triumph of justice. Machiavelli dismisses this as a fatal fantasy. He states that men are, by their nature, ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers, eager to avoid danger and greedy for gain. As long as you succeed, they are yours entirely. They will offer you their blood, their property, their lives, their children. But when danger is remote, when it approaches, they turn against you. This is not cynicism, it is observation. A leader who builds his foundation on the supposed loyalty and goodness of others is building a house on sand. The first storm will bring it crashing down. The realist, the modern Machiavellian, builds his foundation on a clear-eyed understanding of self-interest. He knows that loyalty is a transaction, not a sentiment. People are loyal to you because you provide them with security, opportunity, or a vision that serves their own ambitions. The moment you cease to provide that value, or the moment someone else offers a better deal, that loyalty will evaporate. Therefore, the leader's primary task is not to be liked, but to be necessary. Your power does not come from the affection of your followers. It comes from their dependence on you. You must become the architect of their success, the guarantor of their security, the sole provider of the future they desire. When they look at you, they must see their own best interests reflected. This is not a matter of manipulation, but of alignment. You are not tricking them. You are leading them by harnessing the most powerful and reliable force in human nature, their unwavering focus on themselves. The idealist leader asks for sacrifice for a noble cause. The realist leader demonstrates how the cause will bring personal reward. The idealist is beloved in times of peace and abandoned in times of crisis. The realist is respected in all seasons because his value is perpetually demonstrated. This is the cold, hard logic that underpins every successful enterprise, every stable government, every enduring legacy of power. It is the first principle you must internalize. See men as they are, not as you wish them to be, and you will never be betrayed. You will only be proven right. Now that you understand the fundamental reality of power, we can build the pillars of your fortress. This knowledge is structured not as abstract philosophy, but as actionable laws of conduct. These are the mechanics of control, the levers of influence that separate the master from the servant. We will explore 3 foundational pillars that you must internalize until they become instinct. Forget what you think you know about strategy. This is the raw, unfiltered truth. The first pillar is the law of the violent opportunity. The rule is this: chaos is not a threat to be endured. It is a ladder to be climbed. Moments of profound crisis, instability, and fear are the fertile ground from which new power grows. While others are panicking, seeking shelter, and praying for a return to normalcy, the aspiring prince sees the board being wiped clean. In times of stability, hierarchies are rigid. The paths to advancement are long, guarded by gatekeepers who have no interest in your ascent. Society is asleep. But in a crisis, a market crash, a political scandal, a social upheaval, society awakens with a jolt. The old certainties crumble. Alliances fracture. The population becomes desperate for a decisive hand to restore order. They do not crave fairness or debate. They crave salvation. This is the moment to act with overwhelming force and speed. The popular myth is that one should proceed with caution during uncertain times. This is the advice of the timid, designed to keep you in your place. Hesitation in a moment of crisis is a fatal error. It signals weakness and invites your rivals to seize the advantage you failed to take. Power abhors a vacuum, and if you do not fill it, someone else will. Consider the story of Agathocles of Syracuse, a man Machiavelli himself admired for his sheer audacity. Agathocles was the son of a potter, a man of the lowest birth, but he possessed immense vigor of body and mind. He rose through the military, but he knew the ruling oligarchy of Syracuse would never accept him as their equal. So he did not wait for their approval. He manufactured his own crisis. He used the army, which was loyal to him, to spread whispers of an external threat, creating an atmosphere of fear. Then, he called a meeting of the city's senators and wealthiest citizens, ostensibly to discuss the city's security. As they sat gathered in one place, comfortable and unsuspecting, he gave a signal. His soldiers stormed the building and slaughtered every single one of them. It was an act of shocking surgical cruelty. In a single morning, he had decapitated the entire ruling class, eliminating every potential rival. The people of Syracuse, horrified but also relieved to be free of the corrupt and indecisive oligarchs, accepted his rule. He brought stability where there was chaos. Was it moral? The question is irrelevant. It was effective. He took power not by asking, but by creating a storm and being the only one with an arc. Think about this in your own context. A company facing a disastrous product launch, a department in turmoil after a manager resigns, a market disrupted by new technology. These are not problems. They are invitations. Do you believe you can ascend by following the old rules when the game board itself is on fire? Or do you recognize that the moment of maximum fear is the moment of maximum opportunity? Fortune favors the bold, but it worships the one who orchestrates the storm. This leads us to the second pillar, the law of perceptual armor. The rule is as follows. The world is a stage, and your reputation is your costume. It is not necessary for a leader to have all the virtuous qualities, but it is absolutely necessary to appear to have them. Reality is complex, messy, and often disappointing. Perception is simple, clean, and powerful. Most people do not have the time or the inclination to investigate your true character. They will judge you based on the signals you project. Therefore, your reputation is not a reflection of who you are. It is a tool you design to achieve your objectives. An image of integrity, compassion, faith, and generosity is a form of armor. It deflects criticism, rallies supporters, and lulls your enemies into a false sense of security. The common myth sold today is the gospel of authenticity. Be yourself. Be vulnerable. This is naive and dangerous advice in a competitive world. Your raw, unfiltered self is full of doubts, weaknesses, and contradictions that a savvy opponent will mercilessly exploit. To show your true vulnerability is not strength, it is an invitation to be attacked. Look at the modern titans of any industry. The celebrated tech visionary who presents himself as a messiah building a better future for humanity. His public persona is one of innovation, social consciousness, and relentless optimism. This image attracts the best talent, secures billions in investment, and earns glowing media coverage. Behind the scenes, he may be a ruthless taskmaster who crushes competitors, exploits legal loopholes, and prioritizes profit above all else. His actions are purely pragmatic, but his reputation is idealistic. That reputation is his shield. It allows him to operate with a freedom that a transparently ruthless figure could never possess. The perception he has built is more powerful than the reality. So, I ask you, are you consciously architecting your public image? Or are you allowing it to be defined for you by the gossip, assumptions, and projections of others? Every email you send, every project you lead, every public statement you make is either building your armor or leaving you exposed. Your character is a strategic creation. Treat it as such. They cannot attack the real you if they do not know who the real you is. Finally, we arrive at the third and most infamous pillar, the law of calculated fear. The rule, stated plainly by Machiavelli, is this. If you cannot be both loved and feared, it is much safer to be feared than to be loved. This statement is almost always misunderstood as a call for petty tyranny. It is the opposite. It is a formula for stability. The logic is clinical and profoundly human. Love, Machiavelli explains, is held by a chain of obligation which, because men are by nature wicked, is broken on every occasion for their own profit. An appeal to love relies on gratitude, a notoriously short-lived emotion. You can save a man's career today, and he will resent you for it tomorrow when he feels entitled to more. Fear, however, is held by a dread of punishment which never fails. Fear is not about inspiring terror through random cruelty. That creates hatred, and hatred is the fuel of rebellion. A hated leader is a leader with a target on his back. Fear, in the Machiavellian sense, is about establishing unwavering respect through the clear and consistent application of consequences. Your people must know, without a shadow of a doubt, that your standards are absolute, your promises are ironclad, and that crossing your established lines will result in swift, predictable, and inescapable retribution. The cruelty needed to establish this fear should be, as Machiavelli advises, well used. This means it must be executed all at once, out of the necessity to secure oneself, and then not persisted in. The actions of Agathocles were brutal, but they were finished in one morning. He did not continue to terrorize the populace. He used one act of extreme violence to establish his authority, then turned to the business of governing, providing the security that the people craved. His fear was a tool, not a pastime. Contrast this with a leader who is needlessly harsh, who humiliates subordinates for minor mistakes, who is unpredictable and vindictive. He does not create fear, he creates hatred. He inspires plots in the shadows. Think about your own professional environment. There is the manager who wants to be everyone's friend. They are loved, but their deadlines are seen as suggestions and their authority is constantly tested. Then there is the leader who is demanding, whose standards are ruthlessly high, and whose displeasure is a powerful deterrent. They may not be loved, but their team executes with precision. One inspires momentary affection. The other commands consistent action. Which position is more powerful? Which position is more secure? Love is a gift from others that can be rescinded at any moment. Respect born from fear is a gift you give to yourself. You have now been given the keys to the kingdom. We have walked through the three foundational pillars of Machiavellian realism, a trinity of truths that govern the acquisition and maintenance of power. You learned the law of the violent opportunity, understanding that chaos is not a pitfall but a launching pad, that moments of crisis are when fortunes are forged and new orders are born. You have seen that true power is seized with decisive action while others are frozen in fear. We then constructed the law of perceptual armor, realizing that your reputation is not who you are, but a strategic tool you create. The world judges the costume, not the person beneath it, and appearing to be virtuous is far more important for a leader than possessing virtue itself. Your image is a weapon, a shield, and you must be its sole architect. Finally, you confronted the law of calculated fear, the most misunderstood of all Machiavellian principles. You now know that if you cannot be both, it is safer to be feared than to be loved, because love is temporary and transactional, while fear, the respect for consequence, is a permanent and reliable foundation for authority. To be feared is to be respected. To be hated is to be overthrown. The distinction is critical, but to simply know these laws, to understand the how, is to remain a mere technician of power. The purpose of this knowledge is not to create a legion of petty manipulators. It is to forge leaders. And that requires us to elevate our focus from the how to the why. Why seek this power? Why walk this path, which demands a clear-eyed view of humanity's darkest corners and a willingness to make hard choices? The answer is legacy. Power for its own sake is a hollow pursuit that ends in paranoia and loneliness. Power as a tool to build something that outlasts you is the only ambition worthy of a true prince. This knowledge is a burden. Once you see the world as a chessboard, you can never again pretend to be just a pawn. You lose the comfort of blissful ignorance. You carry the weight of seeing the hidden motives, the strategic maneuvers, and the unvarnished self-interest behind every human interaction. This clarity is a lonely gift, but it is also the prerequisite for true agency. The ultimate purpose of power is to impose order on chaos, to build systems and institutions that provide security and prosperity for those under your charge. Look at the Roman Empire. Its rise was marked by brutal conquest, broken treaties, and what could easily be described as Machiavellian ruthlessness. They were masters of war and political subjugation. But what did they do with that power? They built a legacy that shaped the next 2 millennia. They established legal codes, like the concept of being innocent until proven guilty, that are the bedrock of modern justice. They engineered aqueducts, roads, and cities that served millions. They created the Pax Romana, a centuries-long peace enforced by the very power they had so brutally acquired. Their cruelty was a means to an end, and that end was the creation of a lasting order. A wise leader understands that personal power is fragile. It dies with you. Institutional power, the systems, laws, and culture you build, is how you achieve immortality. This is the ultimate why. You seek power not to indulge your ego, but to become an architect of reality, to build a house that will shelter future generations. This applies whether your domain is a nation, a corporation, a community, or simply your own life. The first kingdom you must conquer is the one within. Mastering these external principles is impossible without first mastering your own impulses, disciplining your own mind, and becoming immune to both flattery and insult. Self-mastery is the ultimate expression of power. This knowledge forces a choice upon you. It is a choice that every person of consequence in history has had to make. Now that the veil has been lifted and you have seen the cold, intricate gears of the machine that runs the world, you cannot go back. You cannot unsee it. To pretend this knowledge doesn't exist is to willingly choose weakness. The choice is no longer about whether or not to play the game. You are, and have always been, on the board. The only choice left to you is this. Will you remain a pawn, moved by the invisible hands of others, forever lamenting the unfairness of the game and reacting to the moves made against you? Or will you decide to become the hand that moves the pieces? Will you become a player, an architect of your own destiny, willing to pay the price of clarity and bear the immense responsibility that comes with it? The world does not care about your comfort. It only responds to your actions. Your legacy, whether it is one of quiet servitude or one of resounding impact, will be your answer to that question. If you have watched to this very moment, you are not like the others. The great majority of people click away the instant and uncomfortable truth challenges their worldview. They seek comfort, not clarity. You remained. You listened. That alone signals that you are part of a select few. It tells me that you possess the one quality essential for leadership, the fortitude to look at the world as it is without flinching. This channel is not a place for idle entertainment. It is a forge. It is a modern academy for a new class of leaders, strategists, and thinkers who understand that knowledge, especially forbidden knowledge, is the ultimate weapon. By reaching this point, you have already separated yourself from the masses. You have shown you belong to an elite community of minds dedicated to the mastery of reality. The principles discussed today are merely the gate. In our future briefings, we will go deeper. We will dissect the art of neutralizing your rivals before they even realize you are their enemy. We will explore the methods of controlling the narrative in an age of information warfare. We will uncover the psychological tactics used to create unwavering loyalty in your inner circle. The lessons will become more advanced, the applications more potent, and the implications more profound. This is your invitation to continue the journey. To ensure you are present for the next stage of your education, you must act. Subscribe to this channel now and activate all notifications so you are alerted the moment the next transmission is released. Then, go to the comments below and declare your commitment by typing the word legacy. This will be a signal to me and to yourself that you have understood the weight of this knowledge and are ready to build something that lasts. Join the ranks of those who choose to rule their own fate. The board is set. The next move is yours.